Hark! I am Max, a youth of 24 years, ever the diligent steward of my kin. Thou art familiar with such a soul, the one who, by some curious fate, doth assume the mantle of tech support, emotional solace, and financial aid, all entwined in a singular existence. At the tender age of 20, I took my leave from the familial abode, embarking upon a solitary existence. In this realm of independence, I toil in a steady remote vocation within the realm of design, fulfilling my financial obligations whilst maintaining a prudent distance from the tumult that is my kin. They are not wholly wretched, nor always so, yet in the realm of guilt-laden journeys and the artful dance of subtle manipulation, they might well teach the finest of lessons. Most notably, my mother. Lo, my mother doth possess a certain enchantment that doth sway the hearts of many. Fair visage, gentle tone, that nurturing presence which doth lead passers-by to believe her the most benevolent and kind-hearted soul to walk the earth. And she may don the guise of virtue, when it serves her purpose. Yet when fortune doth turn against her, that visage doth swiftly fall away. In my formative years, I was ever reminded that the fruits of my labors were but a reflection of her noble sacrifices. Should I have ever suggested embarking upon a venture of mine own design, I was greeted with jests laced in sarcasm, as if to say, "Indeed, thou art now the fountain of all wisdom, art thou not? Pray, dost thou presume thyself superior to our humble company?" Yet, I maintained the tranquillity. I did present myself at the festive gatherings, dispatched tokens of celebration, and made frequent calls to evade the lamentations of neglect. Yet, the tides began to turn in the past year. Lo, I have attained a most splendid elevation in my station. Increased duties, verily, yet accompanied by a substantial rise in recompense. At the outset, I kept my counsel, revealing naught to any soul. Not that I sought to cloak it in shadows. Verily, I foresaw the course of our discourse. My kin possess an uncanny intuition regarding matters of coin. Once they perceive thy ascent, they dost gather round like ravenous fowl, seeking a means to profit from thy fortune. Yet I did falter. My younger sister, Lena, aged 19, didst pay a visit for a weekend's respite, and whilst we partook of our evening repast, she beheld a notification from the bank appear upon my device. It was a contribution, a gift most bounteous, and indeed, it was most magnanimous. Her orbs did gleam with a radiant light. She spake not a word in that moment, yet I discerned her thoughts with clarity. The cogs of fate were set in motion. She devoted the remainder of the weekend to inquiring with peculiar precision, "How hath thine toil fared of late? Art thou being treated with kindness and respect? Verily, 'tis a boon to dwell free from the burdens of coin for shelter. Dost thou still employ that app for thy fiscal planning? I beseech thee for assistance with mine own matters." Though it was cloaked in nuance, I discerned the path it would take. Verily, a week hence, I did receive a missive from my mother, bearing the title, Family Valkyrie 2025. Images were affixed, a seaside retreat, swaying palms, and various glimpses of the planned journey. The missive conveyed a sentiment akin to, "Verily, we have not embarked upon a grand familial journey in many a year. Now is the hour to weave anew the tapestry of cherished moments. Lo, I have stumbled upon a wondrous bargain, should we secure our reservation by the coming week." I gazed upon it for a full 10 minutes ere I did reply. Forsooth, the crux of the matter lay in the absence of inquiry. Nay, dost thou harbor any interest? Pray, dost thou believe thou couldst lend thy aid in bringing this endeavor to fruition? It was portrayed as a matter settled beyond dispute. Upon ascending the scroll, mine own name did appear, already inscribed beneath the designation of Chamber 2, Maximum. I responded with a modest, "It doth appear fair. Pray tell, who doth bear the cost of such endeavors?" Mother did reply with great swiftness, "We did muse upon the notion that thou might take upon thyself the task. Thou hast been performing with great prowess of late. It would hold great significance for the kinfolk. O Crimson Heart, prithee, lend thine ear to this matter. I might have been able to bear the cost. With some effort, I might have rearranged a few matters. Yet, that was not the crux of the matter. There existed no discourse, no forethought, merely a presumption that due to my diligence and toil, I was now beholden to them for a lavish retreat. I made no response. Not at this very moment. Summon forth the summons. First, fair Lena. Pray, dear Max, do not comport thyself in such a manner. Alas, it seems our kinship hath waned, and the joys of shared endeavors elude us. We do not seek a journey to the fair city of Paris, I assure thee. Then, dear mother, thou dost oft proclaim a desire for our hearts to intertwine, yet when we seek to share in merriment, thou art absent, as if a phantom in the night. Then my dear aunt, who was unwittingly ensnared in this affair, did leave me a message upon the device, proclaiming that kinship is of utmost importance, whilst wealth may ebb and flow, yet the cherished moments endure for all time. Upon the passage of several days in this manner, I did dispatch a message, composed with tranquillity and directness. I am grateful for the sentiment, yet I shall not bear the burden of the entire journey's cost. If thou art inclined to partake in a joint endeavor, we may devise a plan of moderation and share the expenses therein. No theatrics, merely verity. That did not fare well, indeed. Mother did ring, and lo, she unleashed a torrent of guilt upon me. For the span of 9 moons, I bore thee no more. For thee, I have sacrificed greatly. Is this the manner in which thou dost repay my kindness? Upon a brief sojourn? Thou art not even pondering upon thy sister. She is yet in the bloom of her youth. She is worthy of merriment and delight. Or art thou now too noble for our company? I yearned to unleash a cry, yet I refrained. Verily, I declare, I shall not part with my coin. Thus concludes the tale. Hark, a pause of days in quietude. Then did I receive a missive, informing me that a charge had beset my credit card. A grand one indeed. More than 2,000. In the beginning, I was led to believe it was naught but deception. I did summon the establishment of finance. They proclaimed it was for the purchase of tickets to the skies. Thrice shall they be counted. In mine own name. I found myself seated, utterly bewildered. Thereupon, I did summon the airline and inquired of them the details of my journey. It did align with the dates set forth in Mother's itinerary for her journey. Identical aerodrome. Identical end point. I inquired as to who had secured their reservation. They uttered the name. Mine own mother, Elaine Myers. I did summon her presence. She rose as if naught were amiss. Max, thou shalt find great delight in the abode we have chosen. Behold the vast expanse of the ocean, a sight most splendid and all-encompassing. Thou hast employed my card. Lo, she did indeed let forth a merry laugh. Verily, I found it necessary to secure the reservation. Verily, we did intend to repay thee in due course. Nay, mother, thou hast purloined mine card information. Pray, do not indulge in such theatrics. In that instant, a fissure within my soul did emerge. I did not raise my voice. I did not engage in dispute. I merely uttered a word of coolness and then severed the connection. Thus did I engage with my banking application, reversing the charges that had been wrought, cancelling the card that bore my name, and forthwith requesting a new one to take its place. I did also summon the airline and had the tickets marked as deceitful. That portion proved to be quite the challenge. They compelled me to traverse a series of trials and tribulations. Yet, in due course, I did receive assurance. The tickets hath been annulled. No recompense shall be granted, for the fare in question is not of the refundable kind. Fortune doth not favor thee. I uttered not a word. Lo, I did but bide my time. Lo, an hour hence, my device did sound forth. Lo, it was Lena. Hast thou revoked the tickets? I remained silent. Pray, dost thou jest? We were most assuredly engaged in the act of packing. Yet silent remains. Then mother did summon me. This time, her voice lacked the dulcet charm that once graced her words. Her voice was filled with wrath. Didst thou truly believe thou wouldst attend, perchance? She spake, her tone laden with disdain. Thou art no longer a member of this kin. A smile graced my countenance. Indeed, quite splendid. I did proclaim, and then severed the connection once more. Yet, that was not the conclusion. Forsooth, 2 days hence, a missive did arrive from mine mother's legal counsel, or perchance a knave masquerading as such. The missive asserted that I had engaged in financial meddling and wrought unwarranted emotional turmoil by rescinding the charges and nullifying the journey. And thus, in that moment, the tale took a most captivating turn. In the beginning, a mirthful chuckle escaped my lips. Pray, how could I possibly refrain? A missive, perchance? From one who claims to wield the law's might? Upon unrolling the unadorned parchment, devoid of any crest or mark of authority, one would find it laden with fervent declarations such as the dire consequences of noncompliance and the weighty charge of neglect within the family fold. The name inscribed at the bottom bore the mark of James T. Reynolds, Esq., a title that echoed with the flair of a bygone era, reminiscent of tales spun in the hallowed halls of justice. I undertook a swift inquiry. Without a license to practice, devoid of a legal establishment, and absent from the vast expanse of the digital realm. Nothing at all. Unless my mother had fortuitously discovered a bargain legal counsel from a whimsical cereal box offer, this attorney was as genuine as a contrived twist in a dramatic tale. Yet, it did stir my spirit somewhat. Not for the belief in its authenticity, but for the swiftness of her resolve to venture forth with such fervor. As I pondered, a question arose within me: what truly lies at the heart of this matter? Was it merely concerning the journey? Or had I, perchance, transformed into the very emblem of all that she held in disdain? The soul that hath escaped. The soul who found no further use for her presence. The days that followed unfolded in a stillness most unsettling, akin to the tension found in a tale of suspense. As the calm descends ere the tempest's wrath, when the heavens hold their breath in silence. Lo, I found myself bereft of tidings from my mother and fair Lena, a circumstance most uncommon. No summons. No texts. Not even missives of a passive-aggressive nature, nor those that feign concern for thy well-being. Though I ought to have relished the tranquillity, I found myself amidst a perilous expanse, as if treading upon a field fraught with hidden dangers. Then arrived the gathering of voices in the ether. As I tended to my dental care, my device didst vibrate with relentless fervor, a cacophony of pings echoing like the joyous clamor of fortune's favor in a game of chance. I did unseal it. Lo, the gathering of souls in the chat hath swelled to 8. Not merely Mother and Lena, but also my cousin Jake, my Aunt Marcia, my Uncle Greg, and 2 souls whom I did not initially discern. Verily, it seems that tidings hath traversed the air, and all were troubled by mine unpredictable conduct. Marcia was the first to raise her voice in the discourse. Max, dear heart, we understand that thy mother may at times be a trifle overwhelming, yet this moment held the promise of beauty for all involved. Why make such a fuss over coin? Pray tell, Jake, didst thou reverse the charges? Pray, dost thou jest? Couldst thou not have simply uttered a refusal? Verily, my favored missive, penned by Greg, with whom I have not exchanged words in 3 long years, doth convey a sentiment most poignant. It appears thou art burdened with a bitterness yet unaddressed. Perchance, the counsel of a healer might prove beneficial. Counseling for the soul. Forsooth, I sought to avoid the treachery that would lead me to be beguiled of several $1,000s. Upon the commencement of my endeavor, I set forth to compose a response. It hath been cast aside. Inscribed once more. It hath been cast aside. I found myself in doubt as to what reply might even reach attentive ears. At last, I committed my thoughts to parchment. Verily, I did not consent to embark upon this journey. Verily, I did declare my refusal, time and again. The tickets were secured with the ill-gotten details of my card. I hath undone a deceitful charge. Thou mayest deem it an act of destruction, yet to mine own eyes, it is but the establishment of limits. If thou canst not perceive this, then I do believe we all require a measure of distance. And thus I departed from the assembly. Lo, but a mere quarter of a minute hence, a missive from fair Lena did grace my device. Thou art truly embarking upon this venture, art thou not? I did not respond. Yet another hath arrived. Thou wert ever the cherished one. Mother didst bend her form in servitude for thy sake. One trifling matter, and thou dost behave as if we are indebted to thee for all that exists. The cherished one. Verily, that was most splendid. Upon reflection, I ponder the evenings I remained within the confines of my abode to tend to the young ones whilst Lena ventured forth, or the occasion when I toiled beyond the usual hours to alleviate her burden of a phone bill, or the moment I forfeited my own graduation from the halls of learning due to my mother's unfortunate ailment rendering her unable to drive. Merely to share images upon the grand tapestry of Facebook, captured from a wine tasting a mere hour hence. It was ever the same tale unfolding. Max, embrace the spirit of camaraderie. Max, let not the focus rest upon thyself. Max, we are bound by the ties of kinship. Until I commenced the utterance of a firm refusal. Yet, behold, a twist did unfold. A most genuine, gut-wrenching twist of fate. The morrow, my overseer did summon me through the ether of Slack. Informal. Good morrow, might we converse for a brief span of 5 minutes? Upon the notion that it pertained to matters of the project, I did partake in the video call, a cup of coffee clasped in my grasp, lending but half an ear to the discourse. Yet her visage bore an oddly grave countenance. Good morrow, Max, I wish to impart a word of caution unto thee. This morn, an epistle did arrive in our inbox. I stood still, as if time itself had ceased to flow. From whence dost this inquiry arise? She appeared most uneasy. A person asserting kinship by blood or bond. Thou hast been charged with deceitful conduct. It was advised that we keep a wary eye and refrain from placing our trust in thee with matters of delicate nature. They did even go so far as to affix images that resemble a document of law enforcement's account. I didst blink. What dost thou mean? She didst pause. Fear not. Verily, we are aware of its absurdity. Yet I found it necessary to bring it to the attention of HR, to safeguard our interests. I did convey to them that it was clearly of a personal nature, yet I wished for you to be apprised of the unfolding events. Upon the conclusion of the discourse, I found myself in a state of stillness, utterly motionless. Mine heart knew not the pangs of ire, not as of this moment, merely devoid of sensation. This matter hath transcended mere coin. This matter pertained to besmirching my good name. Concerning dominion, my mother, thwarted in her desires, resolved to exact her vengeance upon me in the most spiteful manner imaginable, by portraying me as perilous, erratic, and lacking in fidelity. And what did most frighten me was not the missive from the HR, nor the foolish correspondence that followed. Lo, how swiftly she did ascend, upon unsealing mine inbox, in quest of any tidings bearing my mother's name. Lo, and there it stood, a missive dispatched 2 hours prior. Subject line. Thou hast afforded us no alternative. There were bonds of affection. Images capturing written words. All is askew, devoid of its rightful frame. A hazy image of yore, wherein I find myself amidst revelry at a tavern, laughter escaping my lips as I clutch a goblet of cheer. A document of dubious authenticity, bearing the phrase, formal statement, emblazoned in bold at its pinnacle. And the missive was but brief. Merely a single verse. All deeds bear their fruits. Max, thou shalt behold it anon. Mine heart did thump with fervent haste. Not from trepidation. Yet there lies a profundity beneath. Something more fervent. Forsooth, I had endured many a year, stifling the utterances of my heart, maintaining mine own space, striving to fulfill the role of a dutiful offspring. I had pardoned beyond what was justly warranted, endured that which I would never counsel a companion to endure. Yet this was a conflict of great magnitude, and I would not remain idle whilst she endeavored to set aflame the very fabric of my existence. Nay, not on this occasion. That night, slumber eluded me. I did make an attempt. Recline upon thy couch. Gaze unsealed. Gazing upon the heavens above. Yet mine thoughts would not find repose. It whirled through recollections as if on a swift reel, hastening through the annals of time. Festivities of birth wherein I faced rebuke for my lack of generosity in sharing. Disputations in the twilight hours concerning matters of coin. In the kitchen, my mother weeps, her heart heavy with sorrow, for Lena hath brought ruin upon my chariot, accusing me of failing to keep a watchful eye upon her. It doth play in an endless cycle now, transformed by the mere flicker of a single missive. Thou shalt witness it anon. She had not merely traversed a boundary. She hath ignited the entire chart in flames. By the break of day, a scheme had taken form within my mind. Not vengeance. Not as of this moment. That moment shall arrive in due course. Firstly, I found it imperative to shield mine own self. I commenced my endeavor by reaching out to the esteemed members of my company's HR team. I did expound upon the matter with greater elaboration than I had with mine overseer. I did declare unto them my suspicion of a personal grudge, that one of my kin might be masquerading as myself or dispatching missives laden with deceitful assertions. Gratefully, the keepers of human affairs displayed a commendable understanding. One of the representatives, Dana, did proclaim, "We have witnessed such occurrences in times past. Kinship oft doth weave a tangled web." They recorded all matters and pledged to sift through any forthcoming missives from my mother's abode or akin sources. Then, I summoned my bank once more. I did affirm that the prior reversal hath been executed. Yet I did implore them to prevent any further levies from the airline or the travel agency that mother had employed, as a precautionary measure. Thereupon, I traversed each and every digital account that I possessed, modifying secret keys, invoking dual verification, and fortifying all that might be wielded as a weapon against my person. Verily, a means of transacting with swiftness and ease. PayPal, thou art a vessel of commerce, a means by which fortunes may be exchanged in the realm of the digital. Verily, even mine ancient account upon the realm of Facebook. From my dear mother's missive, I did erase the correspondence, yet not ere I preserved each attachment and captured the essence of her words in images. Forsooth, merely as a precaution. At the stroke of midday, fortune bestowed upon me a most unexpected revelation. A gentle rapping upon my portal. Not a gentle, courteous one. Verily, it is not a delivery of parcels. This was a knock most assuredly proclaiming, "I am aware of thy presence within." I didst gaze through the small aperture. Lo, it was Lena. Forsaken. I did bide my time. 5 fleeting seconds. 10, thou dost stand alone, a numeral of singular essence. Then didst he part it just enough to gaze forth. "May I enter thy abode?" She did proclaim. "Greetings are but trifles, yet I shall forego them. No mirth doth grace the visage. What dost thou desire?" She did let forth a weary breath. "To discourse. Merely 5 fleeting minutes. Pray, I beseech thee." In defiance of my wiser inclinations, I granted her entry. She appeared weary, as though slumber had eluded her as well. Her orbs were encircled with darkened traces of pigment, and her tresses, gathered in a hasty fashion, appeared as though they had been bound 3 days hence and left to languish ever since. Yet the gaze she bestowed upon me bore no semblance of contrition. The air was chill, a biting frost that nipped at the skin. She did take her seat upon the very edge of my couch, as though she were the sovereign of this domain. "Alas, I was unaware that she would venture so far," she declared at last. "The missive addressed to thine employment." The entire charade of the pretender in legal garb. Such was not the design laid forth. Scheme. I did inquire. She did startle, as if a spectre had brushed past her. Verily, by the selection of words. I merely intended. Mother did declare that with a touch of persuasion, perchance thou wouldst see reason. Secure the tickets, deem it a mere misapprehension. Thou art well aware of her nature. Indeed, I shall. Yet, in the end, thou didst revoke them. And in that moment, she did break asunder. I did fold mine arms across my breast. Pray tell, didst thou journey hither solely to impart this tidings unto me? Lena's lips drew together in a firm line. Nay, I have arrived to deliver a forewarning unto thee. That took me by surprise. She doth converse with Aunt Dana at this moment. And good Uncle Fred. She doth wield her mightiest weapons, striving to persuade them that thou art severing ties with all. Sequestering oneself from the world, she shall weave a web of discord, turning kin against thee. Once did I find mirth within my breast. That vessel hath departed. Nay, Max, thou dost not comprehend. She doth declare thee to be of an unsteady mind, that thou art experiencing a kind of mental tumult. She didst speak of father. I did stiffen. Our father departed from this mortal coil whilst we were but children. A mishap upon the road, where fate's cruel hand did intervene. Yet in the years that followed, my mother wove a tale that he had ever been thus. Begone. melancholic, filled with unease, untrustworthy. Though she uttered not the term mad, its essence lingered in the air, unspoken yet ever present. And now she did employ that very same script upon me. She did convey to Aunt Dana that thou hast been descending into turmoil. Thou hast spoken of the possibility of thy employment slipping through thy fingers, and thus thou dost unleash thy ire upon the world. And dost thou truly hold such a belief? I did inquire. Lena found herself in a moment of uncertainty. Nay, she declared. Yet, alas, the hour had passed. Her delicate pause had already responded to my call. Thou hast arrived to deliver a caution, perchance? I did declare. Or didst thou arrive to witness if I would falter? She did rise from her seat. I have ventured hither, for her demeanor in such a state doth inspire a certain dread within me. Thou dost not perceive it, for thou dost sever ties when trials arise. Yet I dwell in her presence, Max. I must contend with the consequences that follow. And in this moment, her ire transcends mere vexation. She embarks upon a quest of purpose. I did unbar the portal. Perchance it is the hour to cease dwelling in her company. Lena remained still, as if caught in a moment suspended in time. In due course, she shall reveal her true colors, I remarked. Thou art aware of this, dost thou not? Her orbs did dance with a fleeting light. She spake not a word. Upon her departure, she did not unleash a cacophony of slamming doors, nor did she raise her voice in tempestuous outcry. She didst but stroll forth and entered her chariot. Once more, her voice eluded mine, fading into silence. Yet what of the following week? Thus commenced the unravelling of all that was once whole. It began with mine own landlord. Hark, Max, his message did convey, a curious matter, thy mother did call upon the office this morn. She did declare herself as your emergency contact and requested a copy of your lease agreement. She did declare that thou art to be cast forth from thy dwelling, and she shall come forthwith to assist thee in thy departure. I did inform her that such a claim was naught but falsehood, yet I bid thee to remain vigilant. Then did my bank return once more. A fresh endeavor to establish a shared treasury, with her name inscribed alongside mine. Lo, one of my companions, Alex, did send me a missive, saying, Good sir, thy mother hath just added me on the Facebook. She hath been sending me missives through the ether. Inquired if I have observed any alterations in thy demeanor. I made no reply. I had no need to do so, for it was then that I became aware. She had ceased her efforts to inflict upon me the weight of her ire. She sought to craft anew my very essence, to depict this iteration of Max, who was untrustworthy, suspicious, and vengeful, to persuade all in my company that she was the wronged party, and I was the source of the turmoil. It was a tale most classic. If she found herself unable to govern the true essence of my being, she would conjure a new visage and unveil it to the realm. Yet, unbeknownst to her, a truth remains concealed. I had been chronicling every moment in silence. Each missive, each endeavor to meddle with mine occupation, mine abode, mine coffers. Each name she did summon forth into the fray. Each falsehood she uttered. No longer did I merely guard against the onslaught. I was preparing to retaliate. For a fortnight hence, I engaged in an endeavor most unexpected, one I had never envisioned undertaking. I sought counsel. His name was Trent, a moniker that doth echo through the annals of time. Not ostentatious, not confrontational, yet keen as crystal and serene as a healer's hand. He didst specialize in matters of familial discord, the vexations of harassment, and the slanders of the digital realm. Upon the conclusion of our inaugural gathering, I dispatched unto him the complete digital compendium I had meticulously assembled. Missives of electronic kind, be they emails or texts, voicemails that echo, images from the realm of social media, and even the counterfeit missive from a barrister. He was struck with awe at the meticulousness of my arrangements. Max, he declared, perusing the contents of the folder, this matter transcends mere trivialities. This be a most deliberate persecution. Should she reach out to thy employer with deceitful intent, verily, such actions may swiftly tread upon the grounds of legality. Thus did the tides of fate begin to turn. I have taken the measure of filing for a cease and desist. The missive was devoid of embellishment, grounded in truth, and lacking in sentiment. It did recount particular instances of mimicry, pecuniary deceit, endeavors of slander, and vexation. It hath been made abundantly clear that any further endeavors to reach out to me, mine employer, mine landlord, or mine companions shall result in an escalation most severe, including the possibility of civil suits for damages and defamation. The missive hath been dispatched in a manner most formal. Letters of utmost importance, delivered with assurance. 3 days hence. Hark, a hush doth fall. Then, akin to a waning flame bursting forth in a final blaze, my mother did summon me. Verily, I remained silent, as one would expect. The message rang cold and calculated, as though she were reciting lines from a well-rehearsed play. Thy missive hath reached mine hands. Verily, I reckon this is the essence of thy being in this present hour. Alas, it is but a sorrowful plight. Thou wert once a lad of such gentle disposition. Verily, I do hope that in the fullness of time thou shalt comprehend the weight of thine actions upon this kinship. Hark! A sound doth echo. And thus it came to pass. No contrition shall be offered. There exists no contemplation of the self. Merely another lamentation cloaked in the guise of the wronged. I hath severed the connection of her number. Altered my course a week hence. All my passwords have been duly refreshed. Hath a credit freeze been bestowed upon me, and didst banish every single kin from mine social realms. Verily, I did beseech the keepers of human resources to establish a sentinel's mark, such that any missive from beyond, bearing my name, would first be delivered unto me. They were most eager to acquiesce. What of Lena, pray tell? 2 moons did pass ere she did send a missive from a fresh number. It was but a fleeting moment. Thou wert indeed correct. She didst turn upon me. I chose to remain silent. Not from malice. Merely tranquility. True tranquility. The sentiment one experiences upon extinguishing the final spark of a dwelling that ought to have been abandoned long ere this moment. In the final act, dear mother found herself bereft of her longed-for tropical escape. She hath not received her coin, nor her influence, nor her dominion. All she received was a silence more resounding than any contrition I might have offered, and the chilling awareness that her cunning no longer held sway over me. I did not merely take my leave. I did close the portal behind me. Forsooth, for the betterment of all. Pray, allow me to impart this wisdom. The atmosphere is far more pure yonder.